Hello friends and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to sew up the designer mystery block, block 2 from Fat Quarter Shop. Last month's block looked like this, just so you remember. And this month's block is going to look like this. This month's block was designed by Joanna Figueroa of Fig Tree. My brain just broke for a second. By Fig Tree, and she's a well-known designer for Moda. And I'm going to show you guys the fabrics really quick. I love this one with those little birds. Isn't that cute? And then the tone on tone. These are all from Corey Yoder's A Bloom line. And the block from last month was designed by Corey Yoder. And then this is her kind of tan on white. And then her circle on charcoal. So let's get started making this block. Okay, really quick before we get started sewing, I had to put the hair up because it was too hot. I have the finishing kit for this quilt, and I thought I would show that to you really quick because actually somebody on my channel had asked if I was getting the finishing kit because she had not, and so she asked me if she could see it. So it came in this box, which now we can store the blocks in this box because I'm going to take the finishing kit out, and it says, this is right on top. The finishing kit includes fabric for the setting and binding, finishing pattern, 4-inch square and a square quilt block foundation papers, and exclusive keepsake box. Now, I don't really care about the boxes because, to be honest with you guys, you only have so much room for boxes. But while I'm doing the project, it's actually really nice to store the blocks in. So I just emptied this out, so I'm going to put this aside. That'll be nice to store those blocks in. And let me open this packet, which has everything that this came with, and then I'll show you the fabrics. All right, so again, this card just says what's in here. Here's that 4-inch square in a square foundation paper, which if you've done any kind of FPP, these are really, really easy. These are kind of like the most basic foundation paper piecing, so I really kind of like those. Oh, and I see there is a lot of square and a square. So this is the finishing. We'll use those square and a squares, I'm assuming, on these corners. And this is how all of our blocks are going to fit together. And this finishing kit should come with all these fabrics. The nice thing about getting the finishing kit ahead of time is that you can kind of work on it in between the blocks. I made the mistake in the past of not doing that. And so this time I think I'm going to. I was like, oh, I'll just wait till the end. And then you get to the end, and it's almost like doing a whole nother quilt. There's so much to do, so many things to cut. And so for the finishing, that you kind of get discouraged a little bit, or at least I felt that way when I've done other block of the months that had finishing like this. And so then those quilts are still sitting unfinished, to be honest with you guys. So this time I'm going to try to get all this fabric pressed and cut according to the instructions, and hopefully maybe sew it as I go here a little bit. But I wanted to show you the fabrics. There's that green, this beautiful aqua. I love this aqua. And this taupe, light, like pinky peach color. That's kind of the white on white, the tone on tone in this line, except it's taupe with like charcoal gray. Here's this one, the plaid. I really like the plaid. Aqua plaid. Here's the charcoal with like little berries. Here's some more of the tone on tone. I don't know if you guys could see that. And then this beautiful piece right here. Now, this fabric right here is also going to be the backing fabric. Fat Quarter Shop had it specially made in a 108 for the back of this quilt. So I really love this fabric. So I'm really excited about that. And that's one of the reasons I actually bought the backing kit for this, because you can't get that 108 unless you ordered it through Fat Quarter Shop for this project. So that is all the finishing. So I'm going to put this stuff aside and let's get to sewing this month's block, which again looks like this. Okay, so the first thing we need to do to work on this block is we need to make, let's see, we're going to make these corner pieces here that are part of the whole corner, these 4 patch units. So we have 2 fabrics that are really, really similar. I'm going to call them both background fabrics, but I believe one is fabric D and one is fabric F. So fabric D is the tone on tone and fabric F is the kind of tan on white, but they're both kind of background fabrics. But anyway, we're going to turn those into a 4-patch. I already made one so you could see. And we have to make 8 of these. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew these together. And then press them all. I press them all towards the tan on white and then turn them into 4 patches. So we're going to go ahead and sew that together. Just give that a little bit of a press, and I'm going to use my magic juice on it. This is just the Acorn Easy Press Precision pen. I just like the way it helps press everything nice and flat. You just apply it right to the seam and then iron it down. Okay, so that's one. I've got another one here already done. So now we're going to make sure we lay the colors opposite of each other. So the white on white's here, the tan on white's here, and we're just going to stitch those together. Now line up that center seam. They should nest if you pressed everything. It doesn't actually matter which color you press towards. If you press towards the tone on tone or the tan on white, as long as they're all pressed the same direction, they should nest beautifully. You can pin if you like. I'm not a pinner, so if you're new here, you might not know that, but if you've been with me a while, you know I don't like to pin because I don't like to bleed on my fabric. But these are such small little critters, they're really easy to handle, so they come together really well. So I'm just going to give that a finger press and apply some of my Acorn product. And then I'm going to press this. Now, like I said, you have to make 8 of these. So through the magic of TV, I've got all of my 8 of mine done with this one. Unfortunately, I can't do all 8 with you guys. This video would be 1,000 minutes long and you would be really bored. So this is what those should turn out to look like. So I'm going to leave those right there. And I'm going to grab the fabrics for the next step. And the next step is actually making our half square triangles, which the half square triangles use fabric A and fabric G. And those with these combined will make that corner piece that I showed you. So after you've grabbed your A pieces and your G pieces, what you're going to want to do is draw a line corner to corner diagonally on the back of your background square. And you're going to lay those together, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of the line. And then we're going to trim these down to the size in the pattern. So just the 2 at a time method for half square triangles. So stitch on one side. Stitch on the other side. And then you can cut them apart. You can use your rotary cutter or scissors. Sometimes it's easier just to pull out the scissors to do this. Now I'm going to press these towards the dark fabric, which that's the way it shows in the pattern as well. So I'm going to finger press them first. And yeah, I like to finger press before I do any pressing with the iron. It just makes your fabric start to go where you want it to, and the iron kind of just finishes it. So I'm going to grab my iron here. Give these guys a press. And then we are going to trim these down as well. So we have one more step to finish these. And you're going to make 8 Hasker triangles as well. Okay, so I've got those. Let me grab my rotary cutter and my ruler, and I'm going to find the 2.5 inch mark, which this happens to be a 5-inch Creative Grids ruler. Sorry for the glare. And so it's marked, the center of these big dotted lines are actually 2.5 inches, which makes it really nice and easy for me to find the 2.5 inch mark. Measure twice, cut once. I'm a slow cutter, but that's because I like to take my time and make sure I've got everything right, so I don't have to recut my fabric and start over because I made a cutting error. It does happen though, and the nice thing about Fat Quarter Shop is they always give you plenty of extra in their kits. Like, I feel like there's always a lot of extra scrap. And so if you save that every month, and if you do make a mistake, you probably will have enough fabric to fix it. And again, you're going to make 8 of these, so 4 sets of Hasker triangles that make 8. Okay, so those are all trimmed. So now I'm going to lay this out, and lay it out with the charcoal touching. And then I'm going to lay it out so that when we put these in here, the tan on white is going to be not quite touching, but sort of. It's going to look like it's touching. So that way that you kind of get the Irish chain effect with the tan on white, not the white on white. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these together. And you are going to have 4 of these corner units when you're all through. And I did press mine towards the darker, the charcoal fabric. Okay, so those are finger pressed. I'm going to add some acorn and actually press them with the iron here. And then we will sew those together. Again, if you press the same fabrics, the same direction, so towards the gray on both of these, they will nest up really nice when we're making this larger 4 patch. We made smaller 4 patches, now we're taking the Hasker triangles, the small 4 patches, and turning it into a larger 4 patch. I'm going to turn that one around, and then we're going to sew these together. So just flip that guy right on top, and they should nest right in the center. Let's make sure that that came together well in the center. Yep, matched up pretty good in the center there, so I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to just finger press it, and then we will press it with the iron. And when you're done with this step, you can set these 4 patch corner blocks, corner units I should say, they're the corner units of this big block, aside for now, because we need to make our next couple steps before we can add these to anything else. So I'm going to set this guy aside, and I'm going to grab the fabrics here for our next step, which, let's turn the page, is our flying geese units. So we have two sets, or two different colors of flying geese. You're going to make 4 of each of these colors. So 4 of the aqua and background fabric, and 4 of the charcoal and background fabric. So what I suggest is chain piecing everything. That'll make this go a lot faster. I'm going to go ahead and just show you these two. I've already done my other flying geese just to save some time. Let's go ahead and sew these together. That one. It doesn't really matter which side of the flying geese you put on first. If you want to follow the way the directions do it, or follow whichever way makes most sense for your brain, that's kind of what I'm doing. It's gonna look the same in the end once it's sewn into the block either way, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna clip those apart. Now, if I was doing all 8 of these flying geese with you guys, I would sew all one side together, chain pieced, and then the other side of both colors. But again, to save some time, I did make a few, the rest of these ahead of time. So, all right. Now I'm going to put some acorn pressing solution on these guys. It is really important to press between each step. I know it seems like a lot of extra work, but I promise you that if you press between each step, you will have much better results. And you'll be much happier with your quilt in the end. I've had a lot of quilters, I teach and I host retreats, and I've had a lot of quilters that have seemed very frustrated with the results of their blocks, and they ask me what they're doing wrong, and then I'll sit and watch them for a while before I give them any pointers. And typically when blocks aren't coming out the correct size, it's usually not their sewing, because they're like, oh, I've been sewing for a long time. It's usually pressing. They forget to press between steps, and if you don't press real well between steps, you can lose a little bit from each unit that you make, and each little bit adds up to a lot by the time you finish your project or finish your block. So that's just a really simple step. I know it seems like extra work, but it'll really make your quilts come out, your blocks come out so much better, and you'll be much happier with the result. But it also depends on you and your style of quilting. I like very precision quilting, and some people are okay with things not being as precise. And if that's your style, that's perfectly fine. And if you feel like you don't need to press between each step, great. I am just very OCD and I need all my things to match as closely as possible, or I feel frustrated. So, but again, that's just me. I know a lot of quilters who don't care and they just want to finish the project, and that doesn't make them a bad quilter. That just makes them very different from me. But it's still okay. So don't feel like, what I'm saying is, don't feel like you need to change your style or that you need to be perfect. You do you. Okay, I'm going to give these guys a press. Oh, and by the way, even the most precise quilters are not perfect all the time. We still make a lot of mistakes, but being as precise as possible helps eliminate some of those. And I am of the opinion that if I have to pick something out a third time, I just leave it. So there's that too. Okay, so you should have 4 of each of the aqua and 4 of each of the gray. And then keep them in piles like this because we're going to sew them together with the aqua on top. So I'm going to just lay that right on top of there. And one pointer I can say is when you're sewing a flying geese, so you don't lose your point, you should sew with the, you don't want to sew this way where you can't see the X. You want to sew this way where you can see where you sewed the previous, the flying geese. So if you stay 1 thread below where those threads cross, I hope you guys can see that. If you stay one thread this way, you won't lose your points. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that. So that's why I'm putting the aqua on top of the charcoal so I can see where I'm stitching. Now you can definitely do it the other way if you like. If you have a perfect 1/4 inch and you know you're not going to lose your point, wonderful. I have a pretty good 1/4 inch, but I still like to make sure, and I slow down when I go through that part so I can see my points. I do like to make sure that I don't lose my point. So I did stitch 1 thread down. So we should still have a point when I open this up. Yep, sure do. Good. All right. We'll give that a press, and you're going to make 4 sets of these. Oh, that looks really good. Okay, good. Our points came out real well. I'm really happy with that. Okay, so the next step, actually this is not a step in this part of the instructions. It's actually in the block assembly, but I'm gonna go ahead and do this anyway just to get this out of the way. Is you take 2 of these and you're gonna add those corner units, so these, to either side of 2 of these, and then the other 2 are going to join with the center of the block, which we have not made yet. So I'm going to set this one aside. I'm going to show you guys. I already made 1, and this is going to be the top row of the block, and then I started to make the second one, and then I had to make this last half square triangle, make sure that's turned the right way. So now I'm going to join this piece to this piece, and actually I'm going to find, yep, make sure, oh, nope, I've got it turned. There we go. So this one is pressed this way, so what I was trying to do is find the seam that's pressed down so they will nest right there in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and join this, even though it's really not until the block assembly. Just I feel like it's easier to get these out of the way. Now the 2 extra ones are going to join with the center of the block, which we have not made yet, so I'm going to set these aside. So I'm going to go ahead and make this, and we'll have our top and bottom row done, which kind of feels like an accomplishment. So I am skipping around the instructions a little bit. If you're the type of person who needs to follow the instructions line per line, don't feel like you need to skip with me. I just feel like it keeps the pieces from, I mean, when you start sewing, I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a ton of area around my sewing space. And instead of having all these pieces kind of sitting all over and possibly falling on the floor, it kind of just keeps them together and neater. So it makes my brain happy to put something together. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press that, and I'm going to press these out because in the next couple steps when we make the center of the block, it shows to press those in. Usually when patterns give you pressing instructions, it's for the best way to assemble the block, whether it eliminates bulk or just to make the rows fit together the best. So if you want to pay attention and watch those things, that's best. All right, so now we have the top and bottom row done, and let's move to the middle row. Okay, so the next step is to take our C pieces and our J pieces, and we're going to make flying geese just like we did with the bigger ones, but we're making 4 smaller ones now. These are going to make the center star of our block. It's kind of a star in a star. All right, so we're gonna do this just like we did the larger flying geese. So one side trim, so the other side, and you're gonna make 4 of these all together. So much smaller, they go together really fast. Okay. It's kind of fun doing little bitty pieces sometimes. These little tiny flying geese, they're adorable. All right, that's one side. Now we're gonna add the other side. And get that nice and lined up. Okay, and we're going to trim that one away. And add some easy press. We're going to give that guy a press. And again, you're going to make 4 of these. Okay. So there's that guy. Now, to 2 of these flying geese, you're going to add background squares D. So you're going to have 4 of these flying geese, and you're going to add 2 background squares to either side of 2 of them. So you should have 2 that look just like that. Then you'll have 2 left over, and you're going to add that to your center square, which is fabric E, and it's that tan on white again. So I'm going to add this one to here, and then we're going to put these 2 at the top and the bottom. And thank you, Russ, for the magic of TV. My good friend Russ of Quilt Meets World. He talks about that all the time on his channel. What it really is we sew a little bit ahead of time, because if we showed you every single step and did every piece, it would take a really long time. But I like that he calls it that. Okay, now I'm going to press this towards the center square because I pressed these guys out. You always want to try to press, unless the instructions tell you otherwise, towards the more solid fabric with less seams. Everything will lay together so much nicer if you can press towards, like this seam here, this, if you press in, this is a solid piece of fabric rather than all these seams. Again, here, if you press out, you're pressing towards the solid fabric instead of the one with all the seams. So everything just lays much nicer together if you do that. Sometimes it's not possible, depending on what kind of block you're making. So we've got our center done there, and now we're just going to add those pieces to make the center star. Now I am holding this here rather than pinning, and you can pin if you like, but just nesting these seams really nicely. And again, I'm sewing with the flying geese on top so I can make sure I don't cut off my star point, or my point on my flying geese, I should say. And that one looks pretty good. Let's sew the other side. Again, I'm sewing with that one on top so I can nest it and make sure I don't cut off that point. if you get nervous, if you don't pin like me and you like to hold your fabric, but you get nervous when you get close to the foot, you can use a purple thing. You can use some kind of instrument, but don't let it go under the foot where your needle is. That's all, because you could break your needle. Okay, so those look pretty good. I'm gonna press those in away from the flying geese towards that center fabric. Now this little star, there's a lot of seams because it's small that are close together, so it could get bulky. So if you choose to do so, if you're somebody who likes to press open, this might be a good place to press open. I personally don't like to press open, but I know a lot of people do, and that's just fine. Again, your quilt, your choice. Everybody has their own style, and there's really not a wrong way. Ooh, our center star is looking pretty cute. This aqua fabric is so pretty. All right, there's our center star. Now what we're gonna do is we are gonna grab those leftover flying geese, the 2 sets of flying geese that we have left, and we're gonna add those to the side of either side of this center star. Okay. Again, I'm gonna sew with the flying geese on top so I don't lose my point. This is gonna be such a cute block. And at this point, we've already got our top and bottom row finished, so this is gonna go really quick to finish up this block. Now we press the top and bottom row out, so we're gonna press this towards the center, and you're gonna get a little bit of bulk here because you do have the points from your flying geese. Okay. All right, so far so good. We've kept all of our points on our flying geese, including our star legs here on the inside star. So now we just need to give this a good press, and then we can put this whole block together with these top and bottom rows. So let me give this one a press. Just gonna set the seam from the back just because it is super bulky. Same thing on this side. Set the seam there. Oh, I just pressed those out, didn't I? I sure did. And I just said we got to press them in. So I'm going to fix that now. I just realized, I was like, that seemed way too easy to press with all that bulk. Because I pressed them the wrong way. All right, fixed. Whoop. So let's lay this out. And all we have to do now is sew the top and the bottom to the center row. I'm going to press both of these out once I sew this whole block together. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back and show you my finished block. Okay, well, we've got the whole block put together. This is what it looks like. I feel like it turned out really well and not too hard of a block. Took a little bit of time, but that's just because there's a lot of pieces, but not super hard, which is really nice. I really like it. So that's going to go with our block number 1. We have 2 blocks done in this 12-month block of the month. So I'm going to put them in that box that my finishing kit came in to store them. So really excited about this. Thank you guys for sewing with me. I hope to see you next month for block number 3. This is going to be beautiful. And I will see if I make any progress on the finishing kit. Don't know if I will, because I've got quite a few things going on the next month. I've got a trip and I got called for federal jury duty. So don't know how much time I'm gonna have to sew, but I will nonetheless have next month's block when it arrives. So I will see you guys then. Take care. Bye.